Since 2016, we've known the rather unconventional but at least as popular superhero Deadpool. Needless to say, the two movies released so far have been full of action, lewd comments, and brute force, and have thus been able to build up a stable fan base. Now everyone is even more excited about the third part, as expectations couldn't be higher. In today's original, we tell you all you need to know about the upcoming Deadpool 3, so lean back and enjoy. The first thing on the list is obviously the story of the upcoming movie. But before we get started, let's take a quick look at the past two parts so as to refresh our memory a bit. The story revolves around former Special Forces agent Wade Wilson, who now works as a mercenary. Sadly, at the beginning of the first part, he falls terminally ill with cancer and sees a daring experiment as a last resort to escape death. However, he did not take into account the cruel Ajax, who unscrupulously pushes his subjects to the extreme in order to give them superpowers. For Wade, the procedure seems to work as well, and henceforth he's capable of healing his body much faster than his human fellow citizens, albeit at the price of a completely disfigured body. Clearly, the vain Wade cannot go out in public like this, which is why in addition to his alter ego Deadpool, he also acquires a matching red and black superhero suit. Thankfully, he hasn't lost his biting sense of humor, so together with the X-Men mutants Negasonic Teenage Warhead and Colossus, he plots an unprecedented vendetta against Ajax, while also trying to save his girlfriend Vanessa. The second part from 2018 more or less picks up at the end of the first part. Ajax has been killed and Vanessa is in safe hands for now. Our favorite loudmouth has meanwhile come to terms with the situation, though he barely has time to catch his breath. Deadpool, who is now working as a hitman, is found at home by a drug lord following an aborted mission and is forced to watch as his beloved Vanessa is shot dead. Having found support among the X-Men, he makes it his duty to protect the young mutant Russell alias Fire Fist from the villain Cable. On his own, however, he doesn't stand a chance, which is why he establishes the X-Force, a strike force made up of normal mortals as well as mutants. After the near death of Deadpool and the turbulent end of the second part, the desire for another film was naturally awakened. What is known about the third part anyway? Unfortunately, not as much as we would like to know. Lead actor Ryan Reynolds has often emphasized in the past that the third movie will take a completely new direction, and that many movies make the mistake of developing their main character far too late. Might this be a small hint that Deadpool will make his first appearance under the MCU or Marvel brand after the Fox takeover? Well, there's at least no need to worry about the age rating, as Marvel boss Kevin Feige has no plans to make the new film less brutal than its two predecessors. After all, the franchise remains almost inseparable from an R rating. In fact, screenwriter Paul Wernick divulged to the website Den of Geek that Deadpool 3 could become very crossover heavy, referring perhaps to the X-Men or Fantastic Four, just to name a few. As you can see, the Fox takeover has made many things somewhat unclear. Nevertheless, we don't want to keep one of Ryan Reynolds' ideas from you. Originally, Deadpool 3 was supposed to be a joint road movie with Wolverine. Similar to Akira Kurosawa's classic Rashomon, the narrative threads would then differ according to the character and would sort of tell their very own story. Regardless, this plan has been scrapped and there's still no valid clues about the story of Part 3. So, what are your thoughts? What would the ideal storyline for the third part look like? New characters, increased violence, or perhaps more satire? Feel free to let us know in the comments. We'll now present a few interesting stories from the countless Deadpool comics, as well as an idea of our own, which we can imagine quite well in the third part. Some of them may seem rather absurd by the standards of a modern blockbuster, but then again, we're talking about Deadpool here. First, let's talk about the 2012 comic Deadpool Kills the Marvel Universe. The plot corresponds to a classic revenge story in which Deadpool turns into an even more disturbed maniac than he already is. The focus here is less on charming sayings and more on badass violence. The target of his rampage are the well-known MCU greats, with Deadpool even killing Spider-Man with a headshot. Is this too harsh, or might this even be the thematic twist Ryan Reynolds is talking about? Along similar lines is the fairly recent 2018 comic Black Panther vs. Deadpool, in which, as the name suggests, the red and black mercenary sets up for Wakanda to obtain the much sought-after vibranium to save a Fantastic Four mailman. Of course, King T'Challa can think of 1,000 other uses for the vibranium, and so he refuses to hand it over to Deadpool. Meanwhile, T'Challa finds out that Wade doesn't have any healing abilities at all, and that he's merely a walking tumor. In the end, in order to defeat the supervillain Jack-O-Lantern, who's also heading to Wakanda, the two of them join forces. In addition to the two comics, we can imagine another interesting story for Deadpool 3. In line with the multiverse hype that has been dominating the movie scene lately, a kind of Deadpool into the Deadpool-verse would be pretty exciting. How fun would it be to have multiple Deadpools clash to wreak havoc together, or perhaps even go for each other's throats? Maybe there's an evil Deadpool, a good Deadpool,
A tiny Deadpool.
a female Deadpool, and so forth, all meeting through some curious universe or time shift. After all, we already know about the time travel from the second part, so why not jump on the multiverse bandwagon? Sure, this is all pure speculation, but we can definitely imagine a similar storyline. Information on the cast is also still scarce. It is true that Deadpool 3 has been in production since the end of 2020, but official news is still being kept under wraps. The X-Force characters, if they haven't died in part 2 anyway, won't all be back. Well, at least the character Domino won't, since actress Zazie Beetz spoke out about it last March, revealing that she would be happy to assume the role again, but hasn't been contacted or told anything about it. More likely is a return of Stefan Kapicic as Colossus, Brianna Hildebrand as Negasonic Teenage Warhead, Shioli Katsuna as Yukio, Julian Dennison as Russell, and of course, Marina Baccarin as Vanessa. But once again, we can do nothing but guess. The actually deceased Shatterstar and Zeitgeist could also be making a return. After all, anything is possible in superhero movies involving time machines, though we shouldn't get too carried away speculating at this point. Behind the camera, things look a bit more settled, with Bob's Burgers writer Andy and Lizzie Molyneux said to be providing that certain something in the script. According to a report from Deadline, the two were chosen after they sat down with Reynolds and managed to convince him. Also clear is that Deadpool 3 will definitely not be shot this year. After all, Ryan Reynolds is one of the biggest and most popular actors in Hollywood, and they're not exactly known for having a laid-back schedule. Thus, a release before 2023 is considered highly unlikely. Anyhow, the best way to get news is through Reynolds' social media posts, where the 44-year-old keeps publishing little teasers as well as Easter eggs. Well, that's it again with our latest episode. We hope that despite the still really poor news, we were able to offer you a little insight into the current state of affairs. Let us hear your theories and speculations about Deadpool 3 in the comment section and discuss them. If you also enjoyed the video, we would obviously appreciate it if you like and subscribe. See you next time.